This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Israel tries to stop the current wave of Palestinian terror. Plus, the Obama administration plots a new strategy against ISIS, but some lawmakers wonder if it will work. And Israelis mark the 20th anniversary of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. Some feel peace is still elusive after all these years. And the Friends of Zion Museum. See how Christian Zionists help establish the modern state of Israel. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Palestinian stabbing terror attacks have continued to plague Israelis. Much of the recent violence has shifted to the West Bank, but the entire country remains on alert. As the terror wave stretches on, Israel is planning to install security cameras on the Temple Mount. It's their attempt to calm tensions and to stop the Palestinian attacks against Israelis. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says 24-hour surveillance on the Temple Mount will benefit Israel. He says it will disprove the claim that Israel is changing the status quo there and will show where the real provocations are coming from.
Israel will continue to enforce its long-standing policy. Muslims pray on the Temple Mount, non-Muslims visit the Temple Mount.
Israel says the wave of Palestinian terrorism and violence is due to incitement against Israel, particularly regarding the Temple Mount. Secretary of State John Kerry met with Netanyahu and then in Jordan with King Abdullah and Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas. He said the security cameras suggested by King Abdullah were an excellent idea.
This will provide comprehensive visibility and transparency, and that could really be a game changer in discouraging anybody from disturbing the sanctity of this holy site.
One Palestinian official said Israel would use the cameras as a trap to arrest Palestinians. The Temple Mount is the site of two biblical Jewish temples, the second of which was destroyed 2,000 years ago. The Golden Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque occupy the site now known to Muslims as the Haram al-Sharif. Since 1967, Israel has maintained overall security on the Temple Mount. The Jordanian Islamic authorities are responsible for the religious shrines. Netanyahu welcomed Jordan's involvement in solving the crisis.
Israel believes that those who visit or worship on the Temple Mount must be allowed to do so in peace, free from violence, from threats, from intimidation, and from provocations.
Some Israeli activists say banning Jewish prayer is discrimination. Many say the Temple Mount should be a place of prayer for all nations. First came the nuclear deal with Iran. Now the Islamic Republic is being asked to help end the war in Syria. Iran's invitation to peace talks, along with a stepped-up military tactics against ISIS, signals a changing U.S. strategy in the Middle East. Gary Lane has that story.
The U.S. shift in strategy was apparent at the U.S. State Department Tuesday, when spokesman John Kirby announced the Islamic Republic of Iran is being invited to attend Syria peace talks in Vienna.
At some point in the discussion, moving towards a political transition, we'd have to have a conversation and a dialogue with Iran.
While Iran says it will attend the peace talks, Kirby made it clear the United States did not invite Iran, and the country is not a partner but a stakeholder in Syria. And Defense Secretary Ash Carter says U.S. troops will now be more involved in actual combat against ISIS, like the recent rescue operation in Iraq, when special forces joined with Kurdish Peshmerga troops.
We won't hold back from supporting capable partners in opportunistic attacks against ISIL.
Or conducting attacks directly from the air or on the ground, said Carter. The goal for now is to recapture Iraq's Anbar province and seize the ISIS capital city of Raqqa, Syria. And there's growing recognition that Syrian President Assad, now with active Russian combat help, will remain in power. The French are now considering reopening their embassy in Damascus. It was closed back in 2012. Is this a shift in Syria policy or a collapse? Senator Lindsey Graham says Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah are all acting to ensure Assad remains in power, and the Obama administration isn't doing anything to stop it.
He is secure as the day is long. So this is what's happened, folks. The strategy is completely falling apart.
Meanwhile, ISIS is spreading and unleashing its terror around the Islamic world. Afghanistan's national security advisor warns that Islamic State terrorists have become a serious threat in his country. And reports coming from the Middle East say Turkey and several Gulf states have transported 500 ISIS jihadists from Syria to Yemen to fight in the civil war there. And Turkey is tackling the Islamic State head on. They've launched a number of raids this week, killing 7 ISIS fighters and capturing 30 more. The stepped-up fighting has caused more civilians to flee. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees suggests the world is at the breaking point in handling the largest displacement of people since World War II. He says the United States, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and others must come together to end the Syria war.
The question for me is, are the parties that are relevant to this conflict already convinced that the risks they all face are so big that they are more important than the differences among them or not? My sincere belief is that it is a suicide to let this war go on.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
The area of Iraq controlled by ISIS is one of the most dangerous places for missionaries and aid workers to travel. But the need there is great. So former U.S. Marine and martial arts expert Victor Marks took a high-risk missions team to northern Iraq, where he documented what he found among the Kurdish people. Take a look.
There's a people group called the Yazidis that have lived in the region, and actually they've lived relatively peaceful, yet when ISIS came, they were viciously attacked and pursued with a rage and a hate that can only be described as extreme evil.
And everybody was killed. Sorry. Me too.
It's a very, very sad situation when you hear the stories.
Fill her with the power of the Holy Spirit. Lord, that you would honor her, that she has stood for your faith.
On the front lines, right back there is an actual ISIS flag.
Basically, the way they have it right now is not destroying IS. It's basically just containment to just have that fight going. In the meantime, we're sacrificing so many people because we don't have the support we should get.
As they say, they're not just fighting ISIS for the Kurdish region, they're fighting ISIS for the world.
CBN News' Heather Sales talked with Marks about his work with the people of Kurdistan.
You were just telling me you've been there twice this year.
Yes.
And who did you take with you, and what was your reason for going?
Well, we got an invitation from the Kurdistan government, the regional government there, to bring in what we call a quick response team of trained counselors and trauma experts to help specifically reach girls that had been held captive by ISIS and bring hope and healing for their minds.
Wow. And you did talk with the Peshmerga fighters when you were there too. Tell us about that. What are they hoping for from the West?
Well, you know, Peshmerga are some of the most bravest fighters really in the world, and we able to be there right on the front lines with them and see exactly what goes on. They're so honorable. They're saying, don't send troops, just continue with the airstrikes, and then give us the weapons that we need in order to defeat ISIS right here. And they can. That's the truth of the matter. I can remember we're so close we saw, the ISIS flag, and a lot of the Peshmerga fighters don't have the weapons for just a simple reach. So I think if a coalition of the U.S. was able to just equip them with a little bit longer range weapons, they have the heart and the skill to take it to them.
Wow. You, of course, were there to meet with the Yazidi women and girls who had escaped from ISIS. So tell us about that. Who are these women and girls, and what happened to them?
Yeah, you know, the best way to help Westerners understand this, whatever city you're from, it'd be like if an invading army came in and took over the city and people fled. Those who didn't were captured. Wives, moms, kids, girls would be used as sex trafficked commodities. They were being raped. The way the extremists have corrupted this whole issue of the value of people, they say it's actually okay to rape girls starting at 5 years old.
Wow. So this is becoming a revenue stream for them, capturing these girls and women and using them for trafficking purposes.
Absolutely, not only financially, but also for recruiting. It's part of the lure of new fighters, telling them, if you come here, we're going to give you a bride. We'll give you, a female to have sex with. And it's really a shame because these girls are just like our girls here. And that's the one thing when I take teams over or people see it, they go, those could be American girls. I mean, from blonde hair to blue eyes to red hair to dark hair, it stuns people. Because I think part of the coping mechanism when we know horrible tragedies happening so far away, a lot of Christians even just kind of go, well, they're there, and try to push it out of the mind. But these are amazing, real, sweet girls.
How exactly can Christians in the West help these kids?
Well, one, let me say, I'd be aware of organizations that make promises that they actually don't fulfill. We went into a camp and there was a girl who was severely burned and we were shocked and they brought us to her saying this is an extreme case. They didn't have hope because actually other organizations come in, took pictures and never came back and helped. We brought back the money they needed, cash, the next day so she could get surgeries. So I would say find a credible, reputable, solid organization that is actually bringing aid, hope immediately to them and use them as a solid platform to be able to help in the name of Christ.
All right, Victor Marks, thanks for what you're doing there and thanks for your time here.
You bet, Heather. Thank you for having me.
Up next, Israelis mark the 20th anniversary of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, while many feel peace with the Palestinians remains elusive. Israelis are marking the 20th anniversary of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. CBN founder Pat Robertson interviewed Rabin decades ago about his views on peace with the Arabs and Jerusalem. Even after all these years, the issue of peace between Jews and Arabs remain the same. Here's Julie Stahl.
It was Saturday evening, November 4th, 1995. Rabin had just sung Shir LeShalom, Song for Peace, along with a crowd of some 100,000 Israelis at a peace rally in Tel Aviv.
He was a man of the left who was respected on the right. He was a man who was cautious, who made bold decisions.
Shortly after he left the podium, Rabin was gunned down by a Jewish extremist.
It was not just a political assassination, it was the murder of a hero and a grandfather.
The murder stunned the nation and the world. Leaders from some 40 countries traveled to Jerusalem for Rabin's funeral.
Though we no longer hear his deep and booming voice, it is he who has brought us together again here, in word and deed, for peace.
Just 8 years earlier, CBN founder Pat Robertson interviewed Rabin. Rabin told him Israel must remain strong in the face of threats.
Does it seem as if Syria, possibly any of the other Arab states, might want to move into some kind of a jihad against Jerusalem, against Israel, or is that likely?
I believe that they'll never be able to fulfill what they try to achieve, as long as we'll keep our powder dry, our belief unshaken, and we'll have the patience to do what our heritage, religion, call us to do.
Michael Widlansky, author of Battle for Our Minds, says the problems in the world were the same then as they are now.
Some of the world's leaders don't interpret events correctly. Rabin was genuinely loved in Israel, but even at the time of his death, many Israelis thought that his bold action towards peace was a mistake.
2 years earlier, Rabin and PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat's representatives signed the Declaration of Principles in the presence of U.S. President Bill Clinton on the White House lawn.
The agreement with the Palestine Liberation Organization did several things. First of all, it saved the Palestine Liberation Organization. The second thing is it brought in an era of terror unmatched in Israel's history. And the third thing is it taught Israelis that to build peace required more than just hoping for peace. it meant building security.
In 1975, 18 years before Rabin shook Arafat's hand, he told Pat Robertson superpowers could play a role in Arab-Israeli peacemaking, but not replace the parties themselves.
Any peace negotiations have to start on the assumption that the purpose of the exercise, the purpose of the negotiations, is to make peace. And to make peace between whom? Between the Arab countries and Israel.
In 1979, Israel signed its first peace treaty with Egypt, and in 1994, its second treaty with Jordan. Both agreements have had their ups and downs, but have held for decades.
The peace agreements that Israel made proved several things. First, Israel wants peace. Secondly, Israel can make peace with real countries when there are real joint interests. But third, Israel should not try to make peace with make-believe organizations of make-believe minorities, with make-believe national movements.
Widlansky says if Rabin were alive today, he'd be having second thoughts.
I think he would be very disappointed with his own endeavor and would say Israel has to rely upon itself, upon God, and upon its own better judgment to survive and to thrive.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, Middle East expert Stephen Bucci examines the consequences of Russia's military involvement in the region. Russia may finally deliver its state-of-the-art S-300 missile defense system to Iran. It's just one of the latest signs of Vladimir Putin's growing influence in the region. We talked about Russia's military buildup with Middle East expert Stephen Bucci of the Heritage Foundation in our Washington, D.C. studio. How would you describe this relationship, I guess this pact between Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, and Syria?
Probably one of the most divisive and dangerous developments in the Middle East in decades. They have very similar interests, particularly with regard to Syria and with regard to America's role in the Middle East. And it runs the risk of setting up a situation that's very much akin to Europe right before World War I, where you had these power blocks setting up, leading towards a potential conflict that gets kicked off by a very small event. In Europe before World War I, it was the killing of Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Something like that could happen here, and the entire Sunni and Shia worlds could be in armed conflict.
So you see this as a potential for a wider Middle East war?
I do, and it concerns me a great deal. It should concern Israel, it should concern Jordan, these other countries that are our best friends in the region, people with good intentions for the region, and they're the ones who are now at risk. Because even though you would think, okay, it's a Sunni Shia war, it's Muslims fighting Muslims, that won't affect Israel. But I can't believe that if that size of a conflict started, that at least some of these countries would not take advantage of it and use it as an excuse to attack Israel. And Israel is very capable, very tough, very determined, but that's a lot of adversaries to fight at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Now, does it also set up a scenario where Hezbollah has been one of the chief nemesis of Israel, and Israel has been doing all they can to prevent Hezbollah from getting advanced weaponry? Now, if Russia supplies weaponry to Hezbollah and Israel feels like it has to, is this a potential scenario?
Very, very likely scenario, not just potential. With Russia in Syria and Hezbollah in Syria all over the place helping Assad, it would be very easy for them to transfer weapons outside the sight and range of Israel's normal response. That won't be as clumsy as just a convoy riding down the road next to the border, and Israel will say, yeah, there it is, I'm going to hit it. And Israel would have to think twice about hitting Russian targets there, because then they're not only fighting the Muslim world, now they've invited Russia to take them on as well. And Russia right now, the nationalism that's there, I could see them, Putin trying to get a lot of points off of smacking Israel if they do something like that.
Up next, honoring Christian Zionists who helped establish the modern state of Israel. Israeli leaders are honoring Christians who helped give birth to the Jewish state. A museum with groundbreaking technology is telling their story. Here's Annika Kopp.
For 200 years, Christians have played a significant role in helping the Jewish people. Israelis and tourists can learn more about their contributions at a new center in Jerusalem.
The Friends of Zion Museum is in the heart of Jerusalem. It constitutes as a testimony of thousands of Christians who have supported the Jewish people for generations and taken part in the Zionist dream in the establishment of the State of Israel.
There's not millions, there's not tens of millions, but there's hundreds of millions of non-Jewish Zionists.
Former Israeli President Shimon Peres and other dignitaries and friends from around the world attended the grand opening.
The courageous men and women commemorating in this museum are heroes. They embody human dignity, respect for human life, human courage, hope of humanity. The Friends of Zion, the Christian Friends of Zion. Thank you.
Not just evangelical Christians, but Christians of all stripes, Jews, secular Jews, Orthodox Jews are excited to be told the story of people who have stood as Friends of Zion.
Founder Mike Evans declared the Friends of Zion would be much bigger than just a museum.
It will be a research institute to mobilize these non-Jewish friends. It'll be a communication network to communicate truth to them in real time.
That communication uses state-of-the-art technology with audio-visual displays. It includes 3D exhibitions combined with eye-catching maps and amazing lighting designed by local Israelis. The response has been very positive.
The Israeli groups that go through the museum, many of them are in tears, and we have over 50% of Israelis that come through the museum.
It's going to spread across this nation. I know that school groups will regularly come to this and other people from the land. We're excited that they're going to hear the message of God's love for them expressed through born-again Christians.
Peres acknowledged Evans and recognized the Christian Zionists honored in the museum by quoting the words of King David.
The righteous will never be shaken. They will be remembered forever.
Annika Kopp, CBN News, Jerusalem.
When you come here to Israel, be sure to visit the Friends of Zion Museum. It's an amazing experience. And because of the tense situation, please continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's it for this edition. You can follow us throughout the week on Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.